Hey guys, how you doing? I hope things are well for you. Today we're going to talk about a message from Lao Tzu, who is also known as Lao Tzu here in the West, who is the author of an ancient text called the Tao Te Ching. Go. Hey, welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions you ever wanted to ask about spirituality and inner peace. I am your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so first I want to say some thank yous and, of course, apologize again for not getting this podcast out regularly, but you do know that I'm working on some major projects that are for you, that will be coming out to you to give you opportunities to consume this content in a more easy and convenient fashion for you, and also to be much more comprehensive than what we're talking about on this podcast on a regular basis, to give you the ins and outs and the deep intricacies of all the nuances that have to do with this content. But first, I wanted to do a little house cleaning and thank a number of people who've made financial contributions to the podcast. Thank you very much. Kristen, John, Lowell, Judy, Bill, Jared. Some people gave a large amount of money, and I very much appreciate that. Some people on this list give money regularly. I very much appreciate that as well. It goes to defray the costs of this podcast and keep us podcasting while we work on these other things, such as this major book, the mobile application soon to follow the book, and some online video products that will be focused on how to use this stuff for business, how to use this stuff to be a better parent, how to use this stuff for various facets of life. And I also wanted to shout out to a number of folks who have joined us just recently from places other than the U.S. We have had, in just the last couple of weeks, sign-ups from South Africa, Austria, Turkey, the UK, Switzerland, Botswana, Germany, Denmark, Argentina, don't cry for me, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, you crazy folks up there in Canada, Australia, if I didn't mention you, hello. And of course, we got a bunch of crazy people signing up in the very weird and third world place of Florida. So thank you for that. And I get to make fun of Florida all I want because I lived a large portion of my life in that state, and we all know how crazy they are down there. Okay, so today's topic is going to be, I'm pretty sure, out of, it was a suggestion made by one of the folks who sent in a contribution, but it was a good suggestion. It is Lao Tzu's point about sometimes to gain is to lose, and sometimes to lose is to gain. So the story of Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching is that he was a wise old man. In fact, Lao Tzu means wise old man. And so that wasn't really his name. And so he gave talks regularly in his village that he lived in China. And even the guards for the town came around to listen to him speak. And he lived during a time where one of the dynasties was coming to a close, and he saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to go through the governmental change and that type of thing. So he decided to pack up his stuff and move off into the forest and walk away from the whole thing. And the story is that one of the guards on the walls or at the gate saw Lao Tzu trying to leave and knew, because he hadn't written anything down and was just giving talks regularly, that if this man left, a great deal of wisdom would be lost. And so he asked Lao Tzu to write down his wisdom before leaving, and Lao Tzu said no, of course, for good reason that I'll explain a lot better in the book. But you can't explain a lot of the stuff, ironically, although he was giving talks, you can't write this stuff down. In fact, the first passage in the Tao Te Ching has to do with the way that can be spoken is not the way, right? So there is a limitation of language, and he didn't want to write down his wise sayings, and the guard basically threw him in jail and said, I'm not going to let you out until you write your stuff down and write down your wisdom so that it can be preserved. And so at that point, because Lao Tzu wanted to get out of jail and go off into the woods, he wrote the Tao Te Ching in 3 days, handed him the stack of papers, and left. And that was the last anyone ever saw of Lao Tzu. But the Tao Te Ching survived and was printed now multiple languages, one of the best-selling books, wisdom books of all time throughout the world. And it does have some really awesome stuff. One of the things that it talks about in the Tao Te Ching is another one of the enigmatic messages. Sometimes to gain is to lose, and to lose is to gain. Now, we can look at that, and from a 50,000-foot view, from a very cursory, top-level perspective of that saying, we could say, well, sometimes to gain is to lose. Well, if you gain something bad, then you're losing. And sometimes to lose is to gain. So if you lose something bad, you gain something in life, right? Life gets better. Well, that is a very simplistic and overly simplistic analysis of the saying, although that portion could be true. But that's still allowing in your mind to create a judgment of something that's good or something that's bad. The real meaning of this saying, as Lao Tzu wrote it, is more along this lines, right? We know that our sense of self within our mind is what creates every bit of our emotional pain and suffering and our emotional turmoil, because the way the brain works even is that your perception comes in via the limbic system. The appraisal process construes whatever's coming in from the environment as to be a good or a bad thing. And then it's compared to your sense of self, this laundry list of stuff that we create that becomes our life, that becomes our self, that becomes our idea of who we are. And of course, we put our body right here in the center. That's kind of a hardwired thing that when our body is threatened, our body and brain react vehemently, negatively towards the threat, and fight or flight kicks in, yada, yada, yada. But then also, beyond our body being on our sense of self map, we have the things like our religion, our politics, our job, our life story, our likes and dislikes, all the things that come into creating our existence basically get placed on this attachment map. And that, through this appraisal process of things coming in from the world, through our perception, through our limbic system, then gets compared to our sense of self map. And if any one of these things that is coming in from the world has a positive or negative effect on one of these things that we create as our sense of self, be it our religion, or be it our politics, or be it our job, or be it our family, or be it any one of the things that we've attached to our sense of self, if any one of these things comes out of the world and interacts with this internally in our mind, that's when we have our positive and negative emotional reactions. We have a lot more negative reactions than we have positive reactions. And so the more complex that this sense of self is, the more opportunity we have for shit to ruin our day. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's really what Lao Tzu is talking about in sometimes when we lose something, we gain. Because when we lose something off of our attachment map, when we lose a portion of our sense of self, when we lose the thing that we're attached to in our mind, which connects right into Buddhism, right, releasing attachments, when we release the things that we're attached to in our mind or our sense of self, the fewer things that we have coming in from the world through our perception, through our limbic system, which then get compared to what? Well, a shorter list of stuff. And so if we lose something off of our self map, off of our sense of self-existence, off of our that portion of our mind where we create the laundry list of stuff that is us, if we lose something off of that, we actually gain. We gain a higher level of happiness, a higher level of joy, a higher level of inner peace, at the very least, if you want to remove all references to emotion, period, right? We have a higher level of tranquility that we can exist within because we don't have as much stuff on here to defend. And so that also creates the second part of the saying. Sometimes to gain is to lose. Because if we gain something, even if it's a material thing, all of a sudden it becomes a portion of our sense of self. We own it. It becomes ours, and we become owned by it to a certain extent. So when we gain, we lose. When we gain something, we lose. We lose the opportunity to have that inner peace moment, because now we've got a longer laundry list of stuff, that the stuff's coming in from the world, running through our limbic system, being run as a check against our sense of self. Does any of this stuff affect us or work against us or work towards one of our goals, that type of thing? We lose that tranquility of mind. When we gain something, we actually lose. Because when we're gaining something, we lose the ability to process without strife, without turmoil. We lose the ability to remain in a state of equanimity most of the time. And so that's exactly what Lao Tzu was talking about when he was talking about sometimes when we gain, we lose. Because when we gain things, we have to put them on our attachment map by default, and then the whole unconscious process starts creating more emotional turmoil for us. So that's why we lose, and sometimes when we lose, we gain. So that's exactly what Lao Tzu was talking about when he's talking about sometimes when you gain, you lose, and sometimes when you lose, you gain. Hope you guys are well. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can do that a couple of ways. You can click one of the donation buttons that we have somewhere hidden on the website at iamspirituality.com, or you can go to audible.com or audibletrial.com/iamspirituality. And if you sign up for an Audible membership and buy some books, then we get a little bit of a spiff when you do that. And they're amazing. I've been a member for almost 10 years now. And it's one part of the budget that I will not stop. I even have to buy extra books because I go through my 2 credits a month, and I'm just a voracious Audible reader, or listener, if you want to call it that. So you can support us there, audibletrial.com/iamspirituality, and you can pick up any one of the suggested reading books on our suggested reading list at iamspirituality.com. Other than that, stand by. This summer's going to be a doozy. Summer and fall and early winter. Hope things are well. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.